Great. Welcome to the November 18th, 2025 City Council work session. Our meetings are public, and you're welcome to join us in person by watching from the Council's agenda page, Zoom, or YouTube. We hope you'll continue to join us in whatever manner you feel most comfortable. This is a work session meeting during which there is no public comment. Please join us tonight at our 7 p.m. formal meeting to share your comments. We, of course, welcome your feedback anytime via mail, email at council.comments@slc.gov, or via our 24-hour phone line, 801-535-7654. Comments received on agenda item topics are shared with all council members and are posted to our website, slccouncil.com. The first item on our agenda is updates from the administration. And joining us for that today, we have Weston Clark, Director of Community Outreach. Thanks for being here, Weston. Yeah, you did.
Thanks for having me today. I'm solo today, so I'm feeling a little scared. So forgive me if No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. All right. Go ahead to the first slide. This, of course, is our regular reminder of our now 2 pages, but hopefully back to 1 soon, that we encourage folks to go to, where we have our engagement opportunities. That's the feedback page, the old school one, and the new and flashy Shape SLC that we encourage everybody to go to because it's great. If you haven't had a chance to explore Shape SLC, I encourage you to do so. And you can check out all the opportunities for engagement that are live right now. So that's a great place to go. Next page. If you happen to live around 300 South, 400 East, you may be interested in the 337 Pocket Park in D4. There is actually a Shape SLC page up with a public survey that will close on November 24th. So far, the survey has received 133 responses. After the survey closes, as with many of our projects, the results will be shared with the consultant, and eventually they will design the future of that space based on the community feedback. Allen Park closed yesterday for approximately 4 months to allow for the installation of new water and fire lines that will support long-term goals for the park's restoration. This infrastructure project represents the first step in the city's efforts to revitalize Allen Park, and it is a vital step to prepare for future development at the park, which is slated for next year. Please join the city on November 20th at 12:30 p.m. to celebrate the grand opening of Backman Community Open Space. This marks the completion of the first project funded through the city's Parks, Trails, and Open Space General Obligation Bond. The new 2-acre open space adjacent to Backman Elementary School on the Jordan River transforms what was once an overgrown area into a vibrant educational and recreational hub for the Rose Park community. The Department of Public Lands implemented safety improvements, public nature playground, an outdoor classroom, and new looped pathways that create opportunities for play, learning, and connection with nature. Next slide. A couple updates from planning. The draft community plan for the avenues is anticipated to be made public in January, and the Capitol Hill plan update has been released with several public input sessions held in the last month and is currently up on Shape SLC as well for engagement. Hoping to finalize that plan this coming summer. A quick update on 2100 South Station Area Plan. That is now being rolled up into a comprehensive update of the Central Community Plan, which will start summer or fall of 2026. The Rio Grande District Downtown Plan and Zoning Map Amendments, which is hoping to align the downtown plan and zoning with the Rio Grande District Implementation Strategy produced by the CRA, was recommended for adoption by the Planning Commission in October and will soon be coming to the City Council for consideration. The draft Northwest Community Plan was released just before Halloween and can be viewed online via the feedback page. We'll have to get them onto Shape SLC, it sounds like. Public input is ongoing with many community events over the last month, and they plan to visit the Fair Park Community Council on December 4th. And our last slide. The Ballpark Next Plan is moving forward with the necessary zoning changes to implement the development on the site. As a first step, the needed zoning changes have been initiated by the mayor. Planning and the CRA will work together on moving the proposed zoning changes through the adoption process with community engagement opportunities along the way. So watch out for that. The public survey for Climate Forward closed on November 4th. The team received close to 1,000 responses between the online survey and the Intercept survey. The next phase of engagement will be focused on the business community, and a business online survey is open now until December 12th on, you guessed it, Shape SLC. Through this survey, sustainability aims to understand how climate change will impact business in our region and how the city can work with the business community toward a more sustainable and resilient future. And believe it or not, that is my last slide, and that's all we have. Any questions?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you. See, there was nothing to be scared of.
No, it was fine.
Our next presentation, though, is not here yet, right? So I think we might be taking another few-minute break. Yeah. Okay. Hello. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a break until we get Wayne Niederhauser and Nick Coleman here, and that should be, they're close. Okay, no problem. Thanks. So everybody stay nearby. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Coordinator Niederhauser, President Niederhauser, I don't know. So we have Wayne Niederhauser from Office of Homeless Services and Nick Coleman also from Office of Homeless Services. And hold on just one second. Okay, great. So we would love, we're looking forward to your presentation. And so I'm going to just turn the time right over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, I believe. Okay. Thank you for allowing us to come over and just give you an update on where we are with the campus. And we have some slides, not very many. I just want to emphasize that we've got a pretty blank blueprint at this point. And we have secured some progress. Let me just get into and then we'll talk about that. So let's go to the next slide. So our mission, vision, and campus, or the mission and vision and objective of the campus. One, mission, we intend to change history here. We will help those experiencing homelessness receive the help and services they need to move from needing help to begin a pathway of thriving. In Utah, we are committed to the proposition that homelessness will be rare, brief, and non-recurring. Our vision is that the campus is a comprehensive hub. It won't be absolutely comprehensive, but will cover a lot of areas of need. We're looking to have a human approach to this, matching up the needs of individuals to the treatments and opportunities that will be on the campus. Our objective is to have stability for people and long-term self-reliance. We want to help those experiencing homelessness with services and support to realize their inherent dignity and walk towards a pathway of stability and human thriving. Let's go to the next slide. So the first, we've been looking for property. Probably I've been involved in that for about 3 years, looked at all kinds of different locations. We landed on the location that's on 2200 North and announced that on September 3rd, 2025. That was a milestone for the campus. We've entered into a contract with Salt Lake City to purchase that property, which purchase will be closed and that contract will be exercised hopefully sometime after the legislative session. Legislative session is going to be a critical time for the campus as to the approach and the funding. So we announced that. We had done a lot of preliminary work on that campus. We discovered that there were about half an acre of wetlands but those wetlands are non-jurisdictional, so are not subject to the need for a 404 permit. And we can move ahead at this time. We've sent a letter to the Army Corps of Engineers with the results of that report. We did soils reports, we've done traffic report, we did our due diligence, let's say that. And while there is no perfect property, this does meet and is a feasible site for a campus. We then, at a similar time, close to the same time, been working on for a couple of months a funding request for the governor's budget. That was submitted to GOPB, that's the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, the first part of September. And the governor's budget will be made public the first part of December. We continue to work with the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget answering questions, but that will be a big determinant in steps moving forward, the governor's budget. That informs a lot of what the legislature will do. Their session starts, I think, on the 20th of January or somewhere close to that. We have then gone from more of a conceptual view of this property to hiring an architect, AJC Architects. I'll talk to them about them in just a minute. The next slide, you're showing the location. It is a 15.85 acre parcel with some potential, I think, for expansion of additional property there. It is planned to be a hub and spoke system with the current system. Step in, get resources, get what you need, step up to get that help, and then step out, and hopefully in a pathway of thriving. The next slide talks a little bit about the architect. AJC, we did a procurement process. They were one of 3 applicants. They're known for their emphasis on sustainability and innovation, and they have a record of success. They have some expertise in this area, meaning they have designed these types of facilities before, i.e. the HRCs that we have, the Gail Miller, the Geraldine, and the Pamela Atkinson in South Salt Lake were all designed by AJC Architects. We're now entering into a process with them to start working on elements that would need to be present on and functioning on the campus. I met with the Mosquito Abatement District yesterday, for example. They gave us some ideas on some things that we would need to do to mitigate the impacts of mosquitoes. And that was very informative. That will now be put in the mix into design. We plan on having the board plans on meeting this Thursday to begin to receive feedback from different organizations on what the campus should be. We'll be receiving presentations from the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness, the Utah Homeless Network. We'll also be receiving a presentation from Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and the League of Cities and Towns. Again, this is the beginnings of receiving that kind of feedback and that kind of input. A lot of things that will need to be discussed in the future is things like public safety. We feel very strongly that it needs to be engagement with especially the properties around the campus, but it'll be fenced in. There'll be a single, we're looking at a single point of ingress and egress. That might change a little bit, but it will be very limited. So we want it to be a secure spot, but we also want to have services available for everyone so that there's really more excuse to be on campus and not off campus. Transportation is obviously an issue where it's located. We do operate a shuttle system today between the HRCs. That's functioned pretty well, and we see that as part of the transportation plan, yet to be determined, but to make it functional, connecting people with places where they need to work, connecting places where they need to get to public transportation. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide. So this is our next steps would again to involve the public and private organization. We've got a security plan, transportation plan, campus athletics, how it'll be designed, how it'll be operated. We'll need to hire a general contractor. We'll also need to secure a operating entity. That's probably a nonprofit to operate the campus. The way other campuses operate, especially the one in San Antonio, Haven of Hope, there is an organization that runs the campus itself, and then other nonprofits are there to offer a lot of services. I think it will be something similar to that. I think we'll put in what Utah would like to see into a campus and not just copy another campus, but the Haven of Hope is an example of what this could be, which is a very effective system that they have there in Texas. Secure funding is going to be a big issue, and then we'll want to coordinate with partners and to develop the system. Collaboration and partnership are going to be a key element to this. We're talking about between state and local governments, between the community, and with operators and those who will construct the facility. We want to also emphasize that our website has a place, go to the next slide, where there will be updates. The QR code allows you to go on that site, put your email address in, and get periodic updates from the Office of Homeless Services. Again, I just want to emphasize that we're at a point where we have a pretty blank blueprint, and we're looking for input. We're looking for engaging the public to determine a lot of what is done on that campus, but mostly at the end of the day, we want to be informed by the needs of the individuals who are experiencing homelessness, so that those needs are addressed on the campus. Open to questions.
Councilmember Petro.
Hi.
Hi.
It's been a while since you've heard of me.
A couple of weeks?
I'm going to ask questions, but I'm going to preface everything by saying former Senator, current director,
Just Wayne.
has been
Please.
one of the few moments of sanity for my neighbors and I as we navigate this incredibly difficult thing. So any questions I ask are not a referendum on your performance, on any disapproval of anything in particular. They are representative of existing outstanding concerns that my neighbors repeatedly and tenaciously text me with, tag me on social media with, and ask me every time they see me checking out in Smith's. So, but I do want to express incredible gratitude for you and your team and the ways you've interacted with my neighbors and with me. So I see that we have an architectural firm, but we're just now asking about what services should look like. I am a person who believes that in human services, form follows function. What form are we putting in place before deciding function? Have we decided therapeutic modalities? Are we going to do CBT, DBT? Is harm reduction involved here? Is this long-term, short-term? Is this trend? I still feel so ambiguous that, you know, even as my neighbors are going, well, what happens if someone leaves the campus? I'm like, I don't even know how long people are going to be on this campus. I don't know if we're taking the people immediately off the trail who are in the and rehabilitating them there and detoxing them, or if these are people who have been to There's so many black boxes about who and how they get there. What are we designing? And are we going to be put into a position where the function has to fit a form that we've predetermined prematurely?
Great question, thank you. And I'll just address it in this way. The question is that we know from the last 4 winters where we've spent $41 million in winter response and have gotten almost 1,000 extra people off the street. Those are temporary facilities. We know that we need a permanent facility. And so there definitely is the need. And so that's one of the objectives here. And I don't think there's any debate about that. We need a year-round facility. I'll just say that the first year that we did winter plans, I think the number of beds was around between $400 or $500 for 400 people. So 400 or 500 people were off the street, and then statutorily that ended in April. We felt really good about having a winter plan. That winter plan had never been a year-round plan before. And then on April 30th, or a couple of weeks before, all those people were let back out on the street. I was in a meeting where people...
We know.
I was in a meeting, a couple weeks later and was talking to stakeholders about this, and they all said, yeah, we know. And so we started to rethink, how do we mitigate that? And that was to extend as many of those beds as possible with the resources that we have into a summer response also. So at the very minimum, this is a space that needs to be resolved on a long-term basis. Now, with that, though, and this isn't anything that we're going in with our eyes closed. We've visited areas that have a similar a campus, so to speak. And they function very well when we're talking about even lots of people. Haven of Hope has about 1,600 people on campus. Nevada Cares has about 800. So yeah, there has been a lot of at least visioning prior to this, but we're all different here. We have different weather, we have different situations, and so we're going to look at this through a lens of what people need. So this is going to be the human-centered approach to this. And we know a minimal amount of what is needed. We've been running homeless resource centers for 6 years, 7 years, and shelter before that. So we know a minimal amount of what is needed, but the objective here would be to provide those services that that person needs and matches the needs of that person. And there's a lot of detail now to be dealt with that. And
so do we have, we have an architectural firm to do the physical design. Do we have evidence-based certified behavioral health experts who are retained and contracted to do the programmatic design?
We don't have any of those involved yet.
So then our architectural design, in my conceptualization, I would rather see us do a modular community and something that doesn't have great architectural design. Sorry, I know that's anathema to everything you would want, but the priority for me is the program. That's what restores humanity and dignity. We're seeing, Carol Hollowell is taking old hotels and converting them into completely restorative, so like for me, the built environment is secondary to the programmatic and the psychological, and then also with the resource centers, while the original conceptualization of that was something that I could get behind, we did not fund that system. And so we started off real strong, and then enthusiasm waned, no pun intended, as like the ongoing needs continued. And so what we have now is a great idea that was only partially resourced, and now a growing population in need, and still fatigue from those who conceptualize it and we're supposed to fund it. And so we find ourselves, those who represent districts who have those resource centers, often confronted with the need for increased security, increased supports there. We find providers absolutely at the end of themselves, unable to provide any more retain skilled help for it. And we have no recourse to go back to that state and say, here's what you told us. In this campus, with this new model, will there be a backstop where it's now being taken by eminent domain by the state? They are the backstop when my neighbors have copper stripped out of their barn, or they find someone sleeping in their barns, or whatever happens, because not everyone who's homeless is a criminal. We do know criminality likes the chaos that can be created around the population when it's not well regulated. So if this isn't well regulated, my neighbors are terrified of what's coming for them. So is the state then their backstop, or is it again us, and we're going to be accused of just not enforcing ordinances?
Well, the accountability of the resource centers, I think it lies with all of us.
Cool, love that, but my police are doing an undoable job.
Yeah.
So what I know is that our police are showing up, and we are consistently the only level of government that shows up with fidelity, but we are showing up with increasingly stressed out resources. Not completely homelessness's fault. The inland port and the authorities are siphoning off revenue that would otherwise pay for an enhanced force that we need. So it's not completely, but this crisis conflated with the diversion of our tax revenue and culture wars being visited down on us, ultimately is creating an ecosystem where neither the unsheltered nor my sheltered neighbors have any confidence in a solution. And I feel tenuous as to what I'm putting my successors and my future city on the line for here. So that's, that's the nexus of my concern as we navigate this.
Well, I can just say, council member, that there's a strong commitment to having this a safe place for those who are in the campus and for those who are outside the campus. Our board members have expressed numerous times that this has to be a safe place for the community. And, a lot of history. We could talk a lot about history with public safety with our current HRC system. And when I was first in this position, Salt Lake got very little money from the mitigation account. And the mitigation account was pretty small compared to the need across the state. So in a statewide approach for me to understand what was going on in homelessness, I heard loud and clear, mitigation and housing were the two biggest issues. So we've done a lot of work with that, and have gotten, Salt Lake City now is a full-blown participating entity in receiving mitigation funds. We've proposed additional funds in the budget because we know that we can't dilute the existing funds. St. George, Ogden, South Salt Lake, Midvale, Sandy, Salt Lake City are all in need of those public safety dollars. And so, it is our commitment to maintain that without dilution, but it isn't our decision at the end of the day. This is going to be those who have appropriation abilities. It's our state and local governments that will end up determining what the funding will be for this. But we're recommending that there be a robust public safety response. And there will be design. So when we talk about the architect, they're not just going to design a building. They're designing it with input from stakeholders. We've already had those conversations with the architect. We'll be talking about best practices, trauma-informed design. All that is an important part of what happens on the campus. There's a lot we could talk about. I'm not sure what I'm missing from answering your question, but that's from our point of view, from the Office of Homeless Services and the Homeless Services Board. That's where we're at this point, and reaching out in meetings like this to get comment, to get direction. Our local government, Salt Lake City, is going to be an important, critical partner in all of this. So anyway, what am I missing?
I will defer, but I just want to repeat my gratitude towards you. I have zero doubts about the commitment of you and your team. That last part about the appropriation powers is something that will keep me awake at night, awake and worried for my neighbors and for the safety of the unsheltered. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Pui and then Councilmember Young.
Thank you for being here, and I know that you are leaving the state, and the answer that and I'm obviously kidding, but have you solved homelessness already, right? And because there is this general belief that this issue is solvable as quick as we can talk, and it isn't. And communities across the country have demonstrated that it is a very complex issue, and it evolves and it changes, and it also requires a lot of jurisdictions to be part of it, part of the solution. A lot of policymakers and a lot of funding sources need to be involved, and it is not an easy problem to solve. And I often think about this issue as one of those that we have to mitigate the best we can, and to acknowledge those that are struggling in our streets, and also to acknowledge the concerns of the overall community, and try to balance this issue as best as we can. But we obviously have an epidemic in our country, multiple, I will say, and we are trying to wrap it, solve it. And in our case, from the municipality in Salt Lake, we are not experts at this, and in many cases we are, as you know, as you've seen it every day, we are tasked to trying to solve this and mitigate it ourselves. And at the same time, it feels, and you know this, and I'm not, I'm sort of sharing this with you, but with the overall environment, that we also accuse of being those that create the problem. And you know how much of our administration of almost every single department in this city is trying to solve this, and I am not. We're talking about potentially millions and millions of dollars of our own taxpayers here in Salt Lake that, instead of going and improving our roads or improving our parks, is going to this issue. And we are cognizant that we need to, do that. But sometimes we forget, or some people forget about how much of an effort our neighbors are doing to try to solve this. And I want to acknowledge that in this conversation. In some ways, the site is both. It feels like a good thing, and at the same time, it felt like a bad thing. And it felt like a good thing because we need more beds. And our city has been saying this since the Rudd home closed in 2019. And many in the state, and many of those that whisper into the state's ear, were saying we don't need more. And you probably remember these conversations. We don't need more beds, right? And we can probably picture the faces saying, we don't need more beds, we have plenty. The system was created for those resource centers to be temporary and to be, moved out of the continuum. And the reality wasn't, they didn't work out like we hoped it did. And I think I felt like the community should get a little bit of that mea culpa of learning through this process. Not because we want to find people to blame, although and most of the time people are blaming us, but because we are learning, and maybe the previous system we created didn't work out as good as we wish it did. I mean, it's working okay, but it could be better, and we needed more beds. And those temporary beds ended up being long-term beds for those that are experiencing homelessness. I'm excited. This is the piece that excites me, that there is more beds, that there's going to be more beds available. We talked about this for years now, since I joined the council, and probably you have been talking about this for years before I've been part of this city. And the sour part of the announcement was obviously, that it felt much like it always happens, right? That it is a tough decision, and it's a tough thing to talk to local communities. But it was brought up, as you probably heard plenty already, in a manner that was complicated for our neighbors on the west side. I acknowledge that the state is doing better at that and trying to communicate better and trying to receive the input. I encourage to you and to your successor that they continue to put extra effort on listening to what the community, the impacts to the community. These are the communities that experience it the most every day, and they're incredibly supportive of finding a solution. But much like you mentioned the mitigation funding that the city receives, we both know that is not even enough to what the Salt Lake City is putting on the table. And we're putting millions of dollars more into this issue, and it always feels like there's not enough. And we are really trying to scrap the bottom of the barrel for resources. And sometimes we hear from up the hill that they are trying to squash some of those resources or more revenue sources for us to mitigate this issue or mitigate many other issues. And it hurts to be in both sides of the conversation. And I'm encouraged because I know your heart. I know who you are. I know how hard you worked on this issue and trying to put us all together and trying to find solutions. That gave me hope over these many years you were leading this department. I cannot not share the frustration from my community to say that we want a robust security and oversight. We want, and that's for the community surrounding the site, but also the community surrounding the current sites, right? Which I don't think we are caught up on the real cost to the state. But also oversight to what happens inside. And I think that is as important. You mentioned that the appetite is to do it right. I'm a little nervous about some of the things I heard online, and that people may not be able to leave, or I still don't understand really what all of this is. I really would love transparency and accountability because no one wants a tragedy or anything bad happening in any of these sites. And I will hope that the state listens to our plea for continuing funding for these services. And we are already currently scrapping at the bottom of the barrel for our own services because we are subsidizing this gigantic issue, which we value. We value trying to find a solution for this. But we have no more resources. We really don't. And I sometimes hear some other elected officials talk about how their cities do a better job taking care of their parks or their streets, and I envy those cities. I really do, because we deserve the same parks and streets, but we don't have the resources to make up that difference because we are putting so much into this issue, and the communities in Salt Lake City deserve as much as any other community in this state. We agree to that. And so I wanted to share the concerns from the community. Also, at the same time, hope for more beds that we've been needing since 2019 and before. So thank you for the service. I'm sure that it's not been easy. I think you moved the needle, which that's the best we can do in this space is moving the needle in the right direction. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that.
Thank you.
So that's all my comments. So.
Thanks very much.
Councilmember Young.
Thank you. Good to see both of you.
Thank you.
I just had a couple follow-up questions. You mentioned you've submitted your funding request and that it's being considered for the governor's budget. Is the total amount of the proposed funding request public information, or is that being held until the governor's budget is released?
That will be released with the governor's budget the 1st of December.
In terms of what it is. And in that proposal, can you share, were you looking at, really specifically resources related to the building itself, to services? I'm just trying to get a sense of what types of scope you had in determining that initial funding request.
Sure, it'd be capital costs along with operational costs.
Okay, so you're looking at both.
Yes.
And then as a part of that, has there been a conversation around what kind of that minimum threshold of funding is? The reason I ask is that I completely understand and appreciate going through legislative session in different roles, that oftentimes, we come in with this is our ideal solution, and then, due to other needs across the state, the amount that may be awarded is less than what was kind of in our ideal solution. At the same point, when I hear my fellow council members talking about concerns, related to the resourcing of this effort, I'm just curious if there's been an internal conversation around what is like a base level of funding where if not this, we just don't have the resources to stand up this particular solution.
Yeah, of course, that's an important conversation to have in any facility. It's desperately needed because of the beds, as has been articulated today, and the amount of money we're spending now could be better spent in a more permanent location, a more permanent response. Last place we want people are living on the street or in any place that's not fit for human habitation. And the second to last place we really want people is in shelter for a long period of time. We want them to get into the services that they need. So, we weren't just pulling numbers from scratch or pulling them out of the air. We did a deep dive into what it costs others to do their campuses. Mm-hmm. What services they were offering, how much does that cost? So we did a pretty deep dive into, what has already been proven as what would be, what's been proven in other areas is capital costs and operational costs. So that's now in, working through that process with the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget. There's a lot of different things that could result on this, that first week in December when that budget comes out. But we'll have to address it then when we know what the direction is coming from the governor's place.
I appreciate that response. I want to reflect that it is certainly on my radar that you have always been an incredible advocate for asking for additional resources to help create solutions in this I also know that, sometimes those calls and those needs haven't necessarily transpired into those additional resources that you've requested. So this isn't a reflection on you, your team, or your leadership. I think it's more so just trying to brace ourselves for a potential reality and being ready to say, do you move forward if resources aren't what we thought they'd be, and at what level does that become not reasonable, where we would have to say we just have to pause until we can generate more resources to be able to create it. So
Yeah, very good point.
yeah, and I just also want to thank you again for your service.
Thank you.
I think for anyone who might be listening, it was so powerful to have you come and stand on the corner of one of our parks that had received a lot of phone calls related to concerns related to camping, and to see both you and Nick, standing shoulder to shoulder with the individuals in leadership from Salt Lake City to be able to discuss what potential solutions look like. You have not only talked the talk, but you've walked the walk, and I think that we are fortunate to have had that leadership and hope to see that continue as we move forward.
Thank you so much. And let me just say that we've thought of a lot of ways to pivot, depending on, as is mentioned here very articulately, there is a bottom to the barrel. There's only so many resources, and so we'll have to consider different options, a pivot to maybe more incremental approach. But I just have to say, we know we need the additional beds and year-round beds, because we want people to be, the last place we want people is in those places that cause the difficulties with public safety and all those situations. So anyway, we have a lot of hope at this point.
I have a quick follow-up to your question, and I think that's a useful one. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me. It's encouraging, and I know of your work, and that you to ensure that we have a good understanding of the actual cost of what this is going to be, or trying to get as close as possible to what it's going to be. And I obviously I refer to this a lot because the state convinced me back in the day that the scatter model was the better model, right? And now the state is sort of convincing me that the campus model is the better model, right? And I want to understand this, because I was convinced originally about the first plan. And since you have worked on some of these numbers, and I can see maybe there's some efficiencies that happened with a larger space, but do you have an estimated cost per bed between the campus model versus the scatter site, or do you have any other metrics that tells us that model is going to be better? Because I want to believe you, and I believe already I know you, but I felt like for the sake of transparency that would be useful.
Yeah, and maybe I'll have Nick weigh in here if I get these wrong, but Nick has done a tremendous job digging deep, doing the research. There's only so much you can do, and then at the end of the day, we've got to work with our partners in establishing what is what we're going to actually do and put on the ground. But our current resource centers cost about $53, $55 a night for individuals. We see the campus being about $65 per night. Jail is about $136 per night. Prison is about $147 per night. An evening in the emergency room is thousands of dollars. We have a tremendous asset now in our system in Salt Lake County with the Crisis Receiving Center. That's an expensive model too. But we're dealing with very difficult human situations that need a response that facility offers, but it costs money. So we've really dug deep into that. We know what these things will cost us, and with that information, the governor's office can put together what they feel is available with state dollars today, and then budgets are tight, as you've mentioned with your budget. State budget's the same. I've been on both sides of it, and I understand the spectrum of needs that the legislature needs to appropriate for. So yeah, we want to get as many people off with the services that they need, matching their needs with the services that will be available, and we get as many of those opportunities as possible with the resources that will be available. So, and this is important point, is we just don't want to be silent in this. Please, we all need to be speaking out as those come, as we know what may be available through the state. Of course, the legislative process, can change things, and I know that this is, kind of speaking to the choir, and you know the game with the legislature. You got to be vigilant, and your voice needs to be raised, and so yeah, we'll continue to do that, and I encourage Salt Lake to continue in that process. But we see it as a partnership, and hopefully it will be there's some effective partnering with local governments, city, county, and then our state government, and as well as the philanthropic community. I know that the philanthropic community has expressed interest in helping, mostly with the capital stack. But operationally, those probably dollars will come from, in a government situation.
Councilmember Dugan, and then Councilmember Lopez Chavez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Wayne. And I agree with what Councilmember Young and Puyo already talked about. Thank you for all your services, and thank you for your advocacy on this all. And thank you for always, saying rare, brief, and non-recurring. You mention that probably every time you speak, and I really appreciate that, because Salt Lake City is committing to making homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And we're also very committed into helping being part of part of the solution for this statewide homelessness problem. It's not a Salt Lake City problem, it's a statewide homelessness problem. And we're very committed to that. And I'm kind of jump on what Councilmember Puyi said, and with some hard facts, and it's more not for you, but it's for more of the general public, that the city is provided and $124 million in loan financing and affordable housing constructions between 2020 and 2025. That includes over 7,000 affordable units, 528 deeply affordable units, and we've also supported the Other Side Academy, family housing at Sparks, replacing a dilapidated, dangerous hotel with 200 affordable units, 65 family units, daycare centers, transit stuff. We have SwitchPoint that's done a number of things across Salt Lake City, and that's on Salt Lake City's taxpayer dollars. And when I look at this plan, and I love it, and I don't want to take funding away from that, because right now our input into the homeless exceeds our output. More people are going into the system and then leaving the system. And we need to make sure that we are still committed to the output side of the house. And so I don't want to distract and dilute our funding for the output with taking funding from that to put it into the input side of the house and on a campus model. And my concern here is that we could end up with, we have a 1,300 bed campus, I'm not even sure what that mixture is. We'll get to that in a second here. But that's the input, but the output's not there. And now we're losing it. We're going to continue. Where do we build the next 1,300 bed campus? And the next one after that? And so when does that stop when we're not addressing the output side, the homeless side? So first, kind of, can you address that on that side of the house, that where does the state envisioning the output side of this issue? And then I have a couple more other questions.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Dugan. We all know what that output looks like, and that's recovery.
Right.
For our individuals, this is addiction, this is mental health, this is just trauma that people have experienced in their life, the lack of housing. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting we just give people housing. You know, they need the support and help in housing. And Salt Lake City's done an awesome job in helping create affordable housing. You know, our country, you know, and particularly our state, has seen huge increases in the cost of housing. And the data is very clear that the cost of housing drives homelessness in our country. You know, Mississippi has the lowest rate of homelessness.
Right, and the lowest cost living, yeah.
And the lowest cost of housing.
Yeah.
Where we have the highest cost of housing, there's the highest cost of, the highest rates of homelessness. And it's interesting, in a lot of those areas, they have low unemployment, they have low poverty, but high homelessness.
Right.
The only correlation that has ever been predictor of what might be your homeless rate has been the cost of housing. But it isn't just housing. It's this whole thing about recovery and getting people matched up with what they need. And that's, you know, at least the idea that we've been putting on the ground here with the transformational campus, recognizing that just putting people in a shelter it's only going to end up with needing more shelter.
Right. And so so my point here is that the deeply affordable side of the house, because there are a number of people who are homeless right now that have, they either have a Section 8 voucher, they have other vouchers that allow them to have housing, but they can't find a place at $400 or $600 a month. Yeah. Because there's no beds available at that level. And so that's the beds, that is the housing side of the house. And they don't need a 2,000 square foot home, they need a 150 square foot
bedroom.
Home. A bedroom, exactly, a 100 square foot place. And then they're stabilized and they can be an asset to the community. So I want to make sure that our commitment to that is not being diluted because we need to find 1,300 beds here. And so that's the first kind of point I wanted just to make. And I appreciate your point there.
And your argument is not lost on us. We realize that the back end has to be there.
Yeah, and that's, I just want to make sure that the public realizes that the back end needs to be there, and the legislator needs to make sure that the back end needs to be there. The second question I have is on the, there's the state, the county, which is responsible for the mental side of the problem, the mental health side of the house, and the city being Salt Lake City because we're home to the campus, possibly the home of the campus, right? So this partnership, there's got to be a lead dog. Who's the lead dog in running this thing? Is this going to be a state-directed board, or is this going to be a state-directed your department, your office? Who's got that lead when we have an issues on funding? Because someone's got to be the lead dog. And if it's the city's the lead dog, then the city's got to be the lead dog and say, we got the money, we need the money, and we can't take 1,300 beds, we can only take 1,000 beds because we don't have the money here. So who's got that lead dog, and how's that decision made at that point position? And I don't know if there's an answer, or if that's a future discussion item.
I think that there's a lot to be discussed about that in the future. Right now, it's obviously being led by our office, but not without, how long we've been talking about this and working together on it.
The discussion's been there, but there's always got to be.
We haven't been doing it in a box.
No, yeah. And I totally understand that part. I'm not inferring that you're in a box, because it's definitely been collaborative in nature. But at some point, someone's got to be decision maker. And I'm just curious on who has that lead in the overall operational and running of the show in this campus.
Yeah, I mean, as far as operating a campus, I think we got to have an effective nonprofit or operator that would come in and operate that campus under the direction of a board, so to speak. That's the way this works in other areas. It's the way our current system works to a large degree.
All right.
And so, I mean, but that I think is still open for a lot of discussion also.
And Mr. Chair, I got two more questions.
Go ahead.
The other concern, and these questions I know were provided to you, and I'm just kind of more for the public side of here. But how do we make sure that this campus doesn't become the drop-off zone? We just have buses to drop off people here, because my using the Cameron Deal name, Dugan City doesn't have any homeless because I just drive the buses to, to Salt Lake City, How do we make sure that this has not become, there's a bus stop in front of the place to drop off people?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because homelessness starts in every city and every county in the state and in this country. Will become homeless through all kinds of means, right?
Right.
Reentry from incarceration. They had a health incident and ended up in bankruptcy and without housing, and so many sources of homelessness, but it happens all over the place. And it's just a few locations that do something about it. I see that there needs to be a more comprehensive view of this, addressing it where it starts. And we've been working on going upstream. The efforts on reentry from incarceration never have seen the effort now going forward to try and solve that problem. Is it solved? No. Right. But it's a highlight. It's something that people are aware of and that they're working on, with the Department of Corrections and the county, thinking about now, how do we make sure that this person exiting the criminal justice system just doesn't end up back in homelessness, or mental health system? So there's a lot being done to try to address this. I just feel like we've never been in quite a spot like this before, with awareness.
Right.
And that's where it's got to start, right?
And
At least aware and not ignorant that this is something that. But to your point about some other city bringing their people here, that's a discussion that really needs to be had. It's a discussion that we recognize. When I was first in this position, we created the winter response plan so that other counties would need to come up with at least a winter response. And so, Utah County last year had a response, and they opened up their response just here the other night. So that's never happened before.
And
so I think there's at least been some progress, but just to your point, I think there needs to be a lot more discussion. And the League of Cities and Towns plays a vital role in that, and the Association of Counties, bringing in that collaboration and how that happens on a more statewide basis. And but I think anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
And I appreciate you've raised the state's IQ level on the homelessness to a high bar. Over the last couple of years, you've raised everyone's knowledge and experience and understanding of it to a very high bar, and I appreciate that very much, because 3 years ago, the IQ level was next to zero, and you've raised it up to a nicer level so we can understand that, because it is a multi-pronged approach, and it's not just one size fits all. And and I appreciate that very much. But I'm also concerned on throwing the idea about the campus model. My other concern is the involuntary committed side of the problem, and mixing an unsheltered, just a homeless, and then now they all probably there's all mental illness across the board. It's just different levels of that need, and there's a side group that needs to be committed because they have a little bit more serious level of that. Where, who, and how we decide who's got that level, I'm punting it from right now, but we need to solve that one, because I am also going, these are two different issues. One is a mental illness in a involuntary committed things, which is the state side of the house, constitutional rights, all these other things right here. How do we forward that? And how do we mix these two campuses when they shouldn't be mixed? Because they are two, I consider them two different veins of two different variables of a solution. And there's difficulty there, and I want to make sure that the mixture is right so that we're not making a bigger problem with one campus.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And, there's a lot of thought behind that. And I'll just say this, Councilmember, is that, we're thinking about all those possibilities. It was mentioned about the scattered site resource centers, and now we're going to a campus. Why didn't we just do the campus from the start? Well, there were discussions about campus versus scattered site. And there are pros and cons to each of them. And we kind of see this as we'll have the best of both worlds. And we can now have conversations with a functioning centralized campus. Does one of the resource centers now focus on people that are veterans, or a more high acuity mental health situation? These are the kind of conversations that we can now have and explore to determine, how the system works best together, and having both scattered sites, and we can hopefully address the pros for both, and get people to what best serves them. Is it a more remote situation? Maybe they need to be closer to work or transportation systems. It might be, and then we've also, got the micro shelters. Right. And, at least, there's thought about having more micro shelters on this location, so that we have a non-congregate situation, because we've discovered that a non-congregate situation is more trauma-informed. Those who have mental health, it's hard for them to be in a room with 50 people. We've already discovered that. Let's take that discovery and make sure we're thinking about that also.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to shout out to Nick. We had a great tour of the micro shelters the other day with a couple of mayors, and it's an eye opener for some of those mayors that had never seen it before. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the direction we're taking on the micro shelters. So, so that was my last question. But I just want to thank you again for the goal of making it rare, brief, and non-recurring. So I appreciate all your work, and I appreciate the conversation we'll have in a couple of days.
Council member, is it all right if I just address one point that Council member?
Yes, we are running a little short of time on this topic, and we still have one council member that wants to speak. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, well, thanks. I just want to address one part of your comment, and it's really the first part. It's the raising the collective IQ of our homeless services system. I realize that I haven't had the opportunity to meet with several of you and introduce myself. I'm Nick Coleman, and I will be the interim coordinator beginning in December, when my friend and mentor, president, coordinator, director, as Councilmember Petro said, retires. And so it's going to be a mantle to take on until Representative Clancy takes the position. But here's what we know. You, Councilmember Dugan, came to the micro shelters and toured those with us, and we're highly involved not only in bringing that together, but in raising awareness for what we've done, and we're looking to expand that project, as you know. There's a lot of momentum behind that, not only from this council, but employees of the city. I think Councilmember Poi made a great point, which is that the city, it's really incorrect to say you're not engaged. You're highly engaged, and not only with Chief Red, but Director over at Utilities, Laura Briefer, has just been incredible to work with in working on projects, especially the micro shelters, and her staff has just been absolutely incredible. And not only that, but Councilmember Young, I was there when we had that discussion with residents that were concerned, and you brought and mustered a tremendous crowd to come to their support. And then most recently, Councilmember Petro has brought together our office and the community in a really difficult, but I think necessary conversation, and we really appreciate the leadership there. So my commitment, the Office of Homeless Services commitment over the next 3 to 4 months as we work through this transition is to be as transparent and honest and direct with our engagement with you as you have experienced with President, Coordinator, Director Niederhauser, or just Wayne, who has gone above and beyond to just invite folks in and bring them into the conversation, and that's exactly what we'll continue to do. So that's the one part of your question I wanted to address, and sorry for interrupting, Councilmember.
No, don't be sorry. I was just going to follow up by saying my comments will be brief. Speaking of brief and non-recurring, but Wayne, it has been so pleasurable to work with you, and that was also my love and care to Dugan, to Councilmember Dugan. But that way there's no confusion. Let me clear the record, okay? But genuinely, I wanted to, in hearing you talk and describe the systems that you have helped build with the help of the legislature, of course, just remembering again where we started, and that is in 2018 when we had Operation Rio Grande. There was a flood in our neighborhoods that had been disrupted, where we had never seen such human indignity and the types of suffering that's happening on our streets. And since then, if we fast forward to today, we still see fragments of people, but the net has been built. I mean, truly. I know that there's a foundation there. I think the public has been well educated, and now what's missing, as my colleagues have discussed, is to continually request funding and to make sure that we don't compress these budgetary concerns on municipalities, but we see this as a true statewide network. I believe that's your legacy, and as a friend to your successor, Representative Tyler Clancy, I see him excited to dive in and to acknowledge your work and build on that foundation. So on behalf of District 4, thank you for your service. Thank you for your team. Sincerely, I've gone out to Rio Grande with our current chief of police, for example, and you can't say that those symptoms are the same. There is actual progress that has the conclusion. It's not just a narrative, but the actual solution in place. We have the antidote to homelessness, and now it's going to take a larger collaboration of cities, counties, and the state. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Again, Coordinator Niederhauser. I just wanted to kind of recap all of that, and thank you for your outstanding 5 years of service to our states as our state's first homeless services coordinator. With steady leadership, you brought together local governments, nonprofits, partners, agencies in ways that strengthened our services, sharpened accountability, and moved us closer to lasting solutions. You're driven by a genuine desire to restore hope and dignity to neighbors in need, and I personally saw that in the meetings that I attended with you. Because of you, lives across Salt Lake City and the entire state are going to be better, safer, and more hopeful. And you've made Salt Lake City and the entire state better your efforts to do that. So we hope you enjoy every minute of your well-deserved retirement. And we want to present you with this gift.
Thank you very
on
much.
behalf of the council. It's a book about, it's called Utah's Story, 150 Years of Photography from the Salt Lake Tribune.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Say hello.
Picture up here? Yes. Picture?
I was just going to ask for that, so thank you. Photo direction. You go first. Okay, now me?
I got multiple.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay, we are going to move on we're actually going to switch items 4 and 3. So we're going to go to agenda item number 4, which is an ordinance on water conservation and land use element.
And then for anyone who's paying attention, we actually bumped item 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Sorry, that was you.
And by switching, what I mean is one is going away. Item number 3, we're going to move to next week, and so we're just going to skip right to item number 4. Okay.
Good afternoon. This is a proposed amendment to Plan Salt Lake that would integrate the city's land use plans and the 2022 Water Conservation and Land Use Planning Plan. It would bring the city's general plan into compliance with the Utah State Code, which requires integrating a water element into the plan by the end of the calendar year. I'll turn it over to Michaela and Laura.
Hello. We are here. I'm here with the incredible Laura Briefer and Stephanie Dewar to just talk about a new chapter that we're proposing to our general plan. And just to talk a little bit about growing water smart initiatives at the city. Next slide, please. What is Growing Water Smart? It's an initiative that we've been working on at the city, and the intent really is to plan for the impact of land use on water conservation so that we continue to be as resilient as possible as we continue to grow and know that we have limited water resources. And the state has required cities by the end of this year to link land use planning and water planning. So the proposal in front of you is a new chapter, Chapter 14, to be added to Plan Salt Lake. And a key point that I want you all to know that the policies and initiatives we've been doing at the city. We've been doing a great job. So this has been great that the state got us together and has actually mandated us to, I guess, learn about how each one of us are planning. Next slide, please. I love this slide so much. Like I said, it's going, yes, from Building Salt Lake, except we added Laura there. It's going to be all of us. It's going to be all of us working on this, right? But right now, planning and public utilities, we've been heading it off and leading out because we're learning about each other's regulatory requirements and statutory requirements, and we've learned a lot. I'm so happy to have them at the table if you ask really hard water questions here. But we continue to keep working, and we'll be coming to the council for years to come. Next slide, please. There are 6 key components that the Utah Code has outlined for us and that we've addressed in this plan update. Next slide, please. First, I want to just, on this slide, I want to just bring your attention to the map on the left, and that really shows, and Laura, I don't know if you want to speak to this a little bit, we don't just provide water to Salt Lake City. I don't know if you want to talk about the water areas at all or anything, but Public Utilities really manages the water supply and demand plan. I don't know if you...
You said it perfectly. We provide water outside of the city to other communities along the Wasatch Front.
Thank you. And the data figure, this is also in our chapter, comes from Public Utilities Water Supply and Demand Plan. That's one of their plans. And it's projecting population and projected water use based on 3 scenarios. And this amendment is going to recommend that the Water Supply and Demand Plan be updated every 5 years, or if necessary, if there's some sort of event where we need to reevaluate and look at our water supply based, yes. So every 5 years or when needed to ensure that our historic water use, population projections, and water use and supply are all being evaluated continuously and properly. So for these scenarios, the city has another plan that you'll be briefed on next week. And Stephanie's here and our expert on the Water Conservation Plan, which is also being updated and went live this fall, and hopefully you're getting a ton of comments on that. That really outlines a ton of these conservation strategies. Like I said, you'll be briefed on that, but we do cite the Water Conservation Plan in this chapter. Next slide, please. The second key component from the state is methods to reduce water consumption per capita. One thing that we've identified is developing consistent future land use designations. We have a number of community plans, and we have conflicting future land use designations. So we will be, well, we already are working on standardizing those future land use designations so that we can do better working with public utilities in the future and their planning, their system of plans for water planning. We have been identifying land uses with high water consumption. We'll probably continue to do that. A few years back, we prohibited some commercial and manufacturing uses that used more than 200 gallons per day. And we'll be identifying other strategies. We've prohibited large water users like bottling plants in the inland port. And we've also taken a look, just a preliminary look, at supporting decreased lot standards, lot size standards. We've run some preliminary numbers, and data is showing us that smaller lots and smaller houses larger lots use more water, smaller lots maybe reducing water consumption. And as water supply reduces, we want to consider additional programs, policies, and regulations that are going to reduce our water consumption. And the Water Conservation Plan, like I said, that you'll be updated on next week, will be going through all kinds of those strategies. And also, in the future, perhaps considering incentives for developments to reduce or lower their water demand. Next slide, please. The third key component from the state is methods to reduce water in city operations. Public Utilities put out an executive report looking at public facilities, and they have already been focusing on improving and updating utilities and irrigation. They've been focusing on parks and golf courses and irrigation systems. Next slide, please. The fourth key component from the state is consideration of the regional water conservation goals. It's important to note that the water conservation state goals are set. They've set those goals. And Salt Lake Public Utilities users have reached the state goal 40 years ahead of target. So that chart that I had in the initial slide deck, or first slide or second slide, will identify scenario 2, which calls for an increased levels of conservation. Next slide, please. The fifth key component is considering the city's existing water conservation plans. We're updating it, And we want to refer to those as well. The state wants us to as well. So we are referring to, in this proposed chapter, policies and updates to the water supply and demand management plan, that's their plans, and the water conservation plans as those are adopted. Next slide, please. The sixth component is consideration of policies related to sustainable landscaping. We have been working on a ton of landscaping changes. We've rewritten our landscape chapter within the last year. I don't know, time flies here. Was it last year? Yes. And a couple years before that, we did an update to make sure that all city residents could avail of state rebates. So we've implemented most principles already for sustainable landscaping. State may have new ones coming down the pike. And you have adopted most of the state's landscaping recommendations, and we may have more changes in the future. Next slide, please. That's just my conclusion. If you have any questions for us, I hope you have enjoyed our proposed Chapter 14. Hope to wrap it up with a bow.
Councilmember Pui and then Councilmember Dugan.
Well, I know we're a little behind, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me ask a quick question. I've been mentioning over the years this many times, and I will hope that it made it to, I think it fits better with consideration 6, policies related to principles of sustainable landscaping. But it's about smart controllers. And, we see not only we see sprinklers going off in city properties, but also in private properties when it's raining all the time. But we also see it is hard to know when to stop watering because it shifts depending on how wet the season has been or when to start watering. But smart controllers can actually help us be smarter about our water. And they're not very expensive, but they're not widely used these days. And we actually have some of the national manufacturers of smart controllers here in Utah, very close to some of them within our city. So I was just wondering if we can embed an emphasis on moving in that direction for our own facilities, but also as a standard for the private side.
Councilmember Pui, that is a perfect segue to next week's discussion on the Water Conservation Plan as part of the suite of recommended strategies. And I'll let Stephanie weigh in on any additional detail on work on smart water controllers and, public education around that. And tell us what you know.
So as a short answer, thank you, by the way, for your question. Central Utah Water Conservancy Districts offers rebates on EPA WaterSense labeled smart controllers. And one of the things we recognized in the course of doing our conservation plan and public feedback is there is, people don't know, the program is actually moderately successful. Central Utah would love more participation. We could do more. And one of the things we're doing as a part of our conservation plan implementation is we're working with a communications team to devise a 5-year communication strategy. And one of the components of that is how do we increase our customer participation in the Central Utah programs, because they're so valuable. Smart controllers, landscape transformations, irrigation assistance, a number of other programs, even for our commercial customers. Central Utah partners with me to do interior audits on commercial properties. So we are absolutely focusing on, in the next 5 years, how to get greater participation in those programs. I'm very excited about it.
That makes me very happy. Thank you.
Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that question. That was perfect. Because when you say commercial, can you add like nonprofit, large public institutions or?
It's all CII properties. The only ones that are tough just because of the bandwidth of it are some industrial properties, although I've done a couple of breweries, which aren't really industrial, but they're heavy commercial. But we do institutional, schools, And a lot of these audits we do indoors and outdoors. Indoors, we partner with Central Utah. Outdoors, we partner with the Utah State University.
Great, wonderful. I have a couple other questions on, I would love to explore more, a couple years ago, we reduced the industrial level max from 200 to 200,000 gallons a day. I'd like to look at possibly lowering that again because I'm concerned about data centers and their use of water, and I'd love to lower that max. The second question I have is just overall, and we can discuss that with Stephanie next week. The question on, do we have a goal that we want to, how much water we want to send to the Great Salt Lake every year? And when we have this conservation measures, what is our goal? I know, and I look at scenario 1, 2, and 3, and I gotta believe they're cumulative. You add scenario 1 to number 2's, and then you add number 3 to that to get to the full level of support. But we're needing a million acre foot plus 6 or times 6. So what's our goal every year to how much water we take to Salt Lake City, Great Salt Lake?
We don't have a quantitative goal for that right now. It's pretty complicated because, and we're working on this. This is a study item not only in our updated water conservation plan that's coming next week, but it's also something that we want to look at very strategically in our long-range water supply and demand plans. Over the last couple of years, we actually had tried to amend state statute because both of those plans, water supply and demand, and the water conservation plans are actually directed for us to do by state statute. Neither of those plans include, under statute, include a consideration of Great Salt Lake if you're in the Great Salt Lake Basin. And so one of the things in developing our strategy is to work closely with our Great Salt Lake Basin planning partners through the State Department of Natural Resources and through others to kind of hone in on the most effective way to both ensure water gets to Great Salt Lake and to measure it, because the measurement part of it is also very, very difficult. And so water conservation plays a big role for us because a lot of our water supplies that we use, we divert from within the Great Salt Lake Basin. So when we conserve water, that means theoretically that water should go back to Great Salt Lake. But there's a lot of work to do in terms of how that might be measured and accounted for. And so it's my goal that we have a strategy that is very concrete, so we as a city can understand exactly what our contribution is, either through conservation, through reductions and depletion of outdoor watering, or even through contribution through our various water rights and the way we manage our water. So that's a really good question, and there's a lot of strategy involved in that.
Councilmember Petro.
Do we have anywhere, so when I'm on the port board and stuff, the question I always get asked is, can we afford this in terms of water, whatever development is coming in? And to me, it seems logical that water is our limiting factor on how we grow. Mm-hmm. I have no concept of how you would quantify that and how you would quantify it in such a libertarian landscape where everyone has control over their own turf to such a high. Do we have any ideas anywhere as to what the maximalist view would be? We can support X industry, we can support X residents. Is there anything like that anywhere? Is it even possible to calculate?
Are you asking from a land use perspective?
Yeah, and I get
long range.
And I get water doesn't stop at our border, so it feels like it would be really difficult for us to say we can do A, B, and C because if downstream they do 1, 2, and 3, it changes everything. But I was just wondering, is that a calculation that's even possible, or is it one that's regionally being attempted, or are we really just kind of shooting in the dark here, hoping that we don't get too many people and industries in one place?
Part of the reason why we have always produced iterative long-range water supply and demand plans, part of that is to satisfy state statute for the protection of our water rights. But the broader picture for us is that we want to make sure that we are tracking both historic trends, current trends, and then using the best projections that we can to understand the long-range trends with changes in land use, which is why we are so happy to work so closely with Michaela and Nick, because land use does have an impact, and then changes in overall population. And then that's overlaid with what we know about supplies over the long range.
Thank you. I understand that has to be really complex, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Lopez Chavez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Petro and I recently had a conversation with a group of representatives from the Real Estate Association, and it made me think of how there seems to be still disconnect, and maybe it's more education on their behalf, but as they're trying to adapt and acquire new assets, and they're trying to create opportunity for them to, and their tenants to offset and conserve as well. I'm curious if you have any thoughts if this policy could help sizable buildings that we would consider commercial, specifically when it comes to multifamily, multi-use, that we consider how we could provide a, almost a barometer of use. A lot of them, as you know, with the utility rate have concerns, but we found a lot of it is, besides looking at formulas and just continuity of paying off bonds, really, I wonder if this is an opportunity, I guess, to come up with a policy solution here. I'd love to hear.
I can speak from the water perspective, but I'm sure there's other thoughts from a zoning perspective. But yeah, since the implementation of our new rates this summer and some of the structural changes, one of the things that we've seen is, especially on the multifamily side of things, there's a lot of diversity in what a multifamily development looks like. And one of the places where I think we have a lot of opportunity, and we were talking about this just the other day, Stephanie and I and a few others, is how do we engage with our planned unit developments and homeowners associations, because oftentimes, like, we don't really understand what's going on behind the meter for them until they come and kind of let us know what's going on behind the meter. I think there's a huge opportunity for outdoor water use conservation tools for them, and perhaps policies in the development of those clustered housing types of development. That's one. But I think that multifamily, because we are seeing more densification and more clustered housing and changes in zoning, I think that's a really big opportunity for us moving forward.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to number 5. Yeah, parking dimensions and off-street parking standards manual update. And for this, we've got Kate Werrett from council staff, Megan Booth, principal planner, and Chrissy Gilmore, planning manager.
So this is being brought before you today because during the last legislative session, there were 2 bills that were passed that make it so that there are some items that are in the parking manual that need to be codified and some other changes. And I will go ahead and turn it over to planning staff.
Hello, Council. Good evening. My name's Megan Booth. I'm a principal planner at the Planning Division, and I have Chrissy Gilmore here. She's my planning manager. Where's the switch for this one? Just say next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a zoning text amendment, zoning text amendment for the parking dimensions and off-street parking standards manual update. Next slide. To align with SB 181 and HB 368, this amendment updates Salt Lake City's parking regulations to ensure consistency with the recently adopted state laws pertaining to barriers to parking that may have an impact on housing affordability. The compliance deadline for adoption, our compliance is December 31st, 2025. The scope of the state laws is we need to formally adopt our off-street parking standards manual. Right now, it's just living as an administrative document. We're updating our tandem and driveway parking regulations and amending the zoning code sections 21A 44060. Next slide. So the key changes in the zoning ordinance, we're suggesting allowing tandem parking for all land uses, allowing driveway parking to count towards the minimum parking requirement for single-family, two-family, row house, and townhome uses, and so long as the driveway leads to at least one space behind the front line of the building. And we're defining unobstructed in the definition chapter to align with state law. In the off-street parking manual, we're codifying the off-street parking manual, allowing the tandem parking for all the land uses, and we did some stylistic and reference updates. And those were based on feedback from other departments. Next slide. So just for your reference, when we say parking behind the front line of the building, it's demonstrated in the image there with the house. If you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer, but I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. And then just for reference also, tandem parking and regular parking is shown there. Regular parking is what most of us think of when we go to park a car, and then tandem would be one behind another in a layout of two for two spaces. Next. What we're not changing any of our parking dimension standards. The state required dimensions. We're not changing anything about our parking minimums. Our landscaping, screening, and lighting standards for parking is remaining the same. The surfacing standards and materials, that question came up in Planning Commission. We're not changing that. We're not changing our driveway widths or approach standards, anything with accessibility, or any parking standards for existing homes. Next slide. So for this amendment, the standards of approval are the standards for general amendments. Planning staff did evaluate the standards for general amendments and assess the impact on resources and adjacent properties. And we feel that it is in alignment with the city goals, objectives, and policies. It will not have an impact on district regulations, and it does implement the current best practices in urban planning and design. And last slide. And so our recommendation is to adopt the zoning code amendments and the off-street parking manual. As mentioned, there's no anticipated detrimental impact. It does generally meet the zoning standards, and it will help us to comply with state law. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Councilmember Mono.
So just to clarify, I know that you said this, but tandem parking would be allowed for all uses, and is that just unlimited? They could all be tandem stalls, or a certain percentage could be tandem stalls?
So we would allow it for all land uses in all zones to meet the minimum parking requirements, but we did make some changes based on the Planning Commission's recommendation to make sure that if there is a tandem parking layout, that the two would have to be assigned to a specific unit. That way you wouldn't have problem in residential circumstances with, people trying to get out.
If it is for like a business.
Yeah, we didn't recommend a requirement for businesses. We figured they can just work that out among their business. And then your question on if there's a percentage, no, it doesn't get that specific. So they could choose to have all tandem stalls, but it does require that it's just two in a row. You can't have three lined. It's just two.
That makes sense. And then for single family, so we are allowing a second stall to be in a driveway, but they must have at least one behind the front line of the house. Is that what is changing? Mm-hmm. What about for commercial properties? Can the driveway parking count for those, or those must all be behind?
Yeah, it depends on the zone, but typically behind the front line of the building.
All right, that's all. My questions.
Chavez?
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to confirm and double check. This might be a stretch, but with the tandem parking, you couldn't also have hydraulic parking. So if you have a narrow space and let's say you have a home-based business, for example, I see lots of mechanics or people working on things, you couldn't stack on top in the driveway. Is that accurate?
I think we actually do allow that. I'd have to look for sure, but I don't know of anything that prohibits that, but I can find out.
The only reason I bring that up, and maybe Councilmember Mono, you can remember in D5, we see a lot of mechanic shops, or I think of the one on D4 on 2nd South, right next to an O'Reilly's. And they park vehicles currently in all different positions, and I could foresee them, they talk about how they want more space. I could foresee them stacking. And that seems like a danger. I'm not really privy to that, but I just wanted to bring that up that I don't know if this is an opportunity to maybe make sure that tandem isn't being utilized. I could see that being a hazard.
Okay, we'll look into that and get back to you.
I think there are like mechanical parking, puzzle parking systems that I think should be allowed in order to meet that. But I think what you're talking about, Councilmember Lopez Chavez, is like, for instance, just a hydraulic lift for a mechanic shop and then parking one underneath. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly right.
Yeah,
Because I do recognize there are exactly that. There's a hydraulic engineered scope, and then there's more stagnant stacking that they would call parking. And I was just curious if the code differentiates.
That kind of parking is dictated by the use. So an auto repair shop or something like that has a limited number of bays that have to be inside of a building. They can't do it outside. So they also couldn't build a parking structure in a required yard. So they couldn't do that in the front. Now, if they have a parking lot that's behind the building, they possibly could do that, just like any other building could do the stacked parking.
Okay, I'd have to look at the one on 2nd South. That one for sure, I know. It's a parking lot, and they're parking along the street as well. And I just know this because neighbors complain all the time. And I was just curious if, it seems like they consider it a bay.
So they have to do, their business activity has to occur within an enclosed building for that type of use.
Right.
So if they're doing anything outside of that, they're technically violating the zoning code.
Got it. But they could, in theory, with this in tandem, park and stack another set of vehicles on top.
Yeah, so the parking is for their minimum required parking, not for the storage of vehicles that are waiting on. So that's a separate issue.
Yeah, I was going to add that wouldn't change the way we do enforcement on those kind of issues. This would be looked at more for the minimum parking for existing or for new uses.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think Austin is here. Austin Whitehead, number 8. If you wanted to go to the board,
Right. We still want to stick with helping that.
we already told them.
Oh, we did. Okay, good. That's fine. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure. Okay. So, Austin, hi. Come on down. We're going to skip to agenda item number 8. So we're going to bump 6 as well to our meeting next week. And our number 7, I don't think Janice is here yet. Oh, yes, she is. Well, sorry, Janice, you're next. So we're going to start with Austin, who is a nominee to the Peanut Board. And Austin, if you would just, this is your time to tell us about yourself, why you're interested in this position, and ask us any questions that you might have. So I'm going to turn the time over to you. Let us give you a little introduction, or you give us a little introduction, and then, we'll see if anybody has any questions for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Austin Whitehead. I live in Liberty Wells, District 5. I moved to Salt Lake City in 2018 for the access to trails and recreation, but also for the bikeable neighborhoods and the parks. And worked at backcountry.com for a number of years, but I'm currently a master's student at the University of Utah in the urban planning department. Hoping to use that skill set to help the Department of Public Lands continue to ensure that equitable access as our city grows and the demand for those amenities grows too. So really hoping just to help keep making this city a great place to be.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Austin?
All right, man. Single track or double?
I mean, I love, I'm a mountain biker and a trail runner. I spend equal time on that. So really a big fan of any trails that I think double track for multi-use trails, but single track for separated trails. Big fan of the separated use.
Listen, that was a trick question. All trails are good trails, so.
Fair enough. Okay.
Thanks. It's great to have you.
All right, thank you so much, Austin. So I'm going to give this speech, hopefully everyone will hear. So we're going to put your name on our consent agenda at our formal meeting tonight. You need not be present to win, but you are welcome to join. But there won't be another opportunity to speak. It'll just be on a slate of things that we'll vote on at the end of the meeting. So totally up to you, no pressure. Okay, sorry, Janice. You were number 7. Come on up. So same thing, this is an appointment to the library board. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving in this position.
Okay, Janice Kimball. Usually I'm here asking for money or permission for Housing Connect to operate in Salt Lake City. I am a proud resident of District 5. And I'm an avid reader. I also am really invested and believe in service to the community. I grew up with that with my parents in Park City. My dad served on the historical review board and was a Rotary member, and my mom worked in a food pantry and helped aging people be able to age in place. She used her nursing skills after she retired. I recently had finished a couple of board assignments that were involved with my professional aspect, and I'm ready to take a little step back from that and do something more in line with an interest. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Janice? Head, Councilmember Malo.
Janice, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And it's been great getting to know you a little bit. I serve on, as you all know, the Housing Authority of Salt Lake City Board. Housing Connect is the Housing Authority of Salt Lake County. So I've been able to get to know Janice a little bit through some conferences that we've both attended, and am very excited that now that you have extra time, you want to fill that up again with more board service, and I'm excited to have you on the library board. I think you'll do excellent work there, and thank you for representing District 5 on that board.
Thank you.
All right. No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You can call out their names and if they are here.
Yeah. Is Christian Chavez here? No? Okay. We don't see Tom Merrill. We all know him. Yeah.
Christian is trying to log on.
Oh, okay.
They are a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we're a little early. Sure.
I mean, we could give another little break and wait until like 6:15. Come back at 6:15. Food is here.
Oh, that's good. What do we want to do? Do you guys want to take a break? Do you want to wait? Someone's trying to join right now. So maybe we wait for Christian. Just Tom Merrill. Yeah. Okay, great.
So we can give it another minute or two.
Okay. There is not. And there, yeah.
You got a birthday? Any birthdays?
I gave birth on this day 11 years ago. So happy birthday to Juliana.
I would like to make an announcement, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Jennifer Bruno had a birthday over the weekend.
Oh, excellent.
I would like to.
45 years young. What? I know, right? No, it was a slightly different day. The Marine Corps birthday was last week.
Well, mine is on the 29th. Thanks for asking.
November energy.
Yes. Very. What? Yes, Sagittarius. Sagittarii. Sagittarii. I will share, even though he didn't wear his jacket, even though I asked him to. Yes. I asked Dan to wear his bomber jacket because I wanted to give him a shout out and thank him as a veteran. I don't think we have, I talked in my speech about how on Veterans Day, which we had a great program, about how veterans are significantly more likely to continue to serve in their community and to go into public service jobs. And not a lot of councils, I don't think, have veterans that continue to serve in that way. So I wanted to thank Dan for his service to Salt Lake City and to our country. Just picture him in like a bomber jacket with like some patches on it and his little nickname. Thanks,
Okay.
Commander.
Thomas is on.
All right, Tom is here. He was here. There he is. He's back. Hi, Tom.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So please tell us about yourself and why you are interested in serving on this board.
Okay, yeah. The 1 minute version. As you all, or most of you know, I'm a longtime downtowner. Moved to downtown in 92. And so I have been more or less downtown ever since. And have just been one of these residents that's been blessed by a whole bunch of administrations over the years that have built this city up into a pretty bike-friendly, outdoor-friendly community. And as a kid, I really appreciated that. I'm now raising a couple of children of my own in Salt Lake City, and a variety of personal projects over the years have kind of brought me into contact with the city and the different departments, and in supporting our outdoor space and things of that nature. And so just thought I'd formalize my involvement a bit and finally get in line. So that's a bit about me. My day job is in healthcare policy, and so I feel very strongly about doing things that help cities become places where people can be outside and active and healthy, and I just love to contribute where I can.
Great. Thank you so much. We're glad to have you. Councilmember Lopez Chavez.
The OG, Mr. Downtown, Thomas Merrill. Although Blake Thomas is, competing for that title. Tom, I'm really excited for you to join. It's an honor to be your council member and a friend. And I just wanted to highlight Tom's specialty, which is really researching and promoting the social determinants of health in the built environment, what he covered. And he's been great as a mentor to me in educating me, and also just being somebody that promotes our neighborhoods. So I'm very excited to see you serve in this capacity, Tom, and excited to be a part of the nomination process tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Tom, I think you know how this works. So we will place your name on our consent agenda item for adoption at the formal meeting. You don't need to be there, but you are welcome to join us if you would like. We'd love to have you. Yeah, do you have any other questions?
I don't. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks for your service to Salt Lake City. Okay, next, Christian, are you here?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Thanks for joining us. So yeah, please take a minute to tell us about yourself and why you're interested in serving in this position.
Well, Tom's definitely a hard one to follow after this. But I was born and raised in Salt Lake, born on the west side in the Rose Park neighborhood, currently live in District 4 now. So I believe I would be the at-large position if I were to be accepted in. But I'm a first-time father, just had a newborn less than a month old. So that has kind of gauged the capacity of wanting to give back to like my city. As I'm living downtown now, I kind of understand like, hey, where would I want to take my newborn? So that has really increased my desire to just kind of get involved and basically what city do I want to like leave for the next generation? So that's kind of my main reason for getting involved. In terms of my day job, I work in healthcare contracting. So over at the University of Utah, of course, this would be in a non-University of Utah capacity. But yeah, so I've worked in healthcare for over 10 years. So understanding that and how our green spaces just attribute to just overall healthcare outcomes. So something that I'm definitely very passionate about.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Any questions for Christian?
Well, I will add, Mr. Chair, congrats on your baby's birth and excited for your journey into fatherhood. I think this is something that we think about all the time. We talk about the families that are trying to be here and definitely the use of our green spaces and keeping them safe and utilitarian and for all types of communities to access. So I'm excited for you. Thanks for joining us, Christian.
Thanks so much.
Any other questions? All right. Christian, thank you so much for your service to the city. We will put your name on our consent agenda for adoption at tonight's meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council members, that is all the agenda items that we have for today. And yeah, like I said, no other announcements or anything. Dinner is here. So yeah, we get a whole extra 5 minutes.
And we'll convene as the Board of Canvassers.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. We're convening as the Board of Canvassers at 7. And then and the formal meeting is you'll be chairing. Councilmember Young. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. See you there.
7.
Ish.
Ish.
Ish.